So this is what I have for the front after cutting. So you can see what I have here. So for the center front here, I also cut a tool. I cut a tool net for this one, so I can use this net to turn the neck, the front neck. I don't want to use bias, so it can give it a neat and nice finishing. So I cut net for the center front here, so I can use it to turn the neck. And I also have my pad. I already cut out the pad. And also, if I'm using the same bridal satin as the lining, I'm using bridal satin for the lining as well. So this is the back. This is what I have. If you want to learn how I made this yoke design here, I have another video where I showed how I did this. So I'll put the link in the description box below. So this is the lining. So from the waist here, the lining is 180-degree flare. So I use the waist measurements and also add your seam allowance here. But because of the way the back is going to look like, this side that I'm going to join will be at the front, will be the center front, while this place is going to be the back. So now what I will do here now is, from your waist you need to measure half an inch for joining the half scale bodies together. So from the half an inch you come down by 1 inch. So when you come down by 1 inch, that's where the ad net you're going to be attaching, that's where it's going to start from. So I'm using 3 layers of ad net. So on the M line as well, add your seam allowance. You're going to add your seam allowance here. So from your seam allowance, you also measure like 2 inches upward from the M seam allowance. From the M line seam allowance, you come up by 2 inches. That's to guide you where the net is going to stop, so that the net will not extend up to the M line of your lining. So now coming back here, once you come down by 1 inch from the half an inch seam allowance, then you measure how long you want the ad net to be. So the ad net I'm using 6 inches length. So now, but when you are measuring here, the ad net length is 6 inches, but when you want to fix the second one, from the 6 inches you go up by 1 inch. So that means from here to here now is 5 inches. So that means the next net I'm going to be adding, I'll add it around this 5 inches, so that the first layer of the net will cover the next one I'm putting here. So the same thing for the third one here, you're going to repeat the same thing here. So you are cutting the same length for the 3 flare, 1 2 3. So then you measure what you have around the waistline on the first layer. That's what would determine the waist measurement you will use. Then the second one here, because their measurement is definitely going to be different, so you also measure what you have around the waistline here to measure the second step, and also the third step you measure it. So if you have enough ad net, you can cut twice so that you can join, so that the pleats can come out very well. So, and then when you are joining, when you are coming to this, remember this side you are going to be cutting this side because it's going to have loops. So when you are attaching the net should stop around after cutting off this place, because this place I'm going to be cutting like 1 inch from here and then slant it to where I want it to reach. Then from there, so once you want to add the ad net, you must stop like 1 inch before where your loops is going to be for the back. So for the ad net, I used 360-degree flare for it, for the 3 steps. So then I added extra, then I cut extra one so the pleats can be much. So this is my bridal satin. I use 360-degree flay. So I'm here to cut out where the loops is going to be, so I'm going to do that. I want to ensure that I've attached everything together then before cutting where the loops is going to be, so I don't make mistake, because I would like to cut everything together. So now the next thing so I'll bring the nets. So this is the 2 nets I was talking about. I also use 360-degree flay. I added 15 inches to the waist measurements so I can pleat it around. So I'm using 2 layers of 2 nets. I have 2 layers. This is the first layer and this is the second layer, and I cut them the same length. They are the same. So this is the sleeve. I cut out the sleeve, then I also cut out the nets the same way I cut the lace. So I'm using the net to turn the sleeve. I'm turning the sleeve with the net to give it a nice, finishing from the hem of the sleeve. Okay, so this is the front bodies, and I told you I cut out the 2 nets to be able to use it to turn the neck around here. And also what the little trick I did around here, there is a tube underneath the lace. So at this place where you stitch the dart together, you won't be able to fold in your 1/2 inch together here. You won't be able to fold in the 1/2 inch for your lining and the fabric and the tube here. You won't be able to fold it in together. So what you do is, when you are taking the dart, when you are stitching the dart, make sure that you already folded in the 1/2 inch on top here. You already folded it in before taking your dart, so that by the time you are done, the upper place here is neat, because you won't be able to stitch this. So what you can now do is, if you don't want it open like so, you can just use your hand needle to tack it down so you have a neat finishing. You can just tack it down around here. The same thing for the other one. So I'm going to iron press this place to give it a nice look. So that's it for the front. So this is the back as well. This is what I have for the back. So this is the back. There is going to be loops around here. There's going to be 3 inches space for the loops around here. And this is going to be the lapel. This is the lapel. This white part is going to be the one at the top. It's going to be on top, while this is the lower one. This is a lapel. The lapel is just the length of where the loops will extend to, where you have that opening. That's going to be the length of your lapel. Then you add extra like 3 inches or 4 inches, so you can overlap. The same thing at the side too. You add extra to overlap. So that's my lapel. And this is the sleeve. I also turned the sleeve with 2 nets. So this is it. I top stitch it on the net so it won't be coming out. So I'm doing a French finishing. So I stitch it at the right side. So once I'm ready to stitch, then I'll turn it to the wrong side and I'll turn it to the right side and place the actual measurements there. And this rope is for the loops. By the time I attach the loops, this is going to be the rope, and I'm using this as the loops. I'm still going to cut more because I don't think this will be enough, so I'll cut more. I'm using this rope. I use a bias, so I cut it out and I tape it down. So that's what I'll be using for the loops. I'll cut it in 2 inches and then I'll stitch it by half inch. So I'll be left with ½ inch. Like by the time you cut 2 inches, you should have something like this. By the time you fold it and you take ½ inch, you'll be left with something like this. So this right here is going to be the belt. It's going to be the belt. So this is what it looks like. Okay, just I use the waist measurement plus extra inches because it's going to be folded at the front. So this is what it looks like. So now I'll press the necessary ones that need to be pressed with iron. Then I have the flare here, the 360-degree flare. This is it here. The same thing for the net. So one of the net, I'm going to be placing an applique on one of the nets, the lace applique. I'll be gluing it on one of the nets. You can untack it and you can use glue. These are the applique that I cut out, so I'm going to be gluing it on one of the nets. So the one that we have this applique on will be the one on top, while the plain one is going to be underneath. So I'll just go ahead and do the necessary things and I will show you what it looks like.